Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Now today I'm going to be looking at a band that I'm kind of familiar with, but not necessarily in an in-depth kind of manner. I'm going to be looking at a band called Charlotte in Cage. Now I will preface this by saying that I am actually friends with one of the members of this band. They come from Salerno, Italy. And I am friends with the bassist Susanna. I actually know her before I knew about her band. That being said, I'm not sure if I've actually ever listened to any of the music by the band. You know, she's spoken to me about the band a few times, but I don't think I've ever actually listened to it. But I can't really tell you that much about the band other than they are a sort of alternative gothic metal band from Italy. As far as I recall, when they first started out, they were an all-female band, but they've had various lineup changes over the years, and as it currently stands, they do now have a male drummer. Influences of the band are things like Kitty, Hole, Pussy Riot, Moonspell, which is one of my absolute favourite bands, and Marilyn Manson, and I'm going to say Typo Negative as well, because I happen to know that Susanna actually has the Typo Negative bass guitar, and I know she's a big fan of Typo. So recently they released a track called I'm Not, or I Am Not. So that's what I'm going to look at today. I do have lyrics here. They come from directly underneath the video in YouTube, so let's have a look. So I'm Not by Charlotte in Cage. Let's have a listen.
My
There we go. I'm Not by Charlotte in Cage. Very reminiscent of old sort of 80s goth sort of emotive sort of music. And as you saw towards the end, it sort of changed up quite a bit. Now, I quite enjoyed that. It's not really the sort of music I listen to on a regular basis, although I do like it from time to time, and I did enjoy it, of course. Many people might think I'm biased because obviously I'm friends with one of the members of the band, but genuinely I do enjoy this sort of music occasionally. And I love the fact that everybody had their moment. You know, you had the bit where the guitarist had her moment, then, you know, Susanna, the bassist, she had her sort of bass solo, and throughout the music you can hear everybody's each individual part as well. Like I've mentioned on several occasions, like bass guitar very often sort of gets lost in the background of the mix of music. You know, you'll hear like the guitars, you'll hear the drums, you'll hear the vocals, and the bass will be sort of lost somewhere in the back, and very rarely do they ever sort of get pulled forward so you can actually distinguish it clearly in the music, which is something I always like. And, you know, beautiful bass guitar sound, and it is a very nice bass guitar. Now, some of you may or may not have noticed half of the lyrics were in English, the rest were in Italian. Now, I have translated the second half. I don't know how accurate the translation's going to be, but with the actual song itself, I'm Not, and then it's got the parentheses there. The sound of the lyrics, it sounds like someone who feels that they're not good enough for someone or for something. And then towards the end of the video, you saw that my friend and the bassist she took over the vocals, and she was sort of walking around the lead vocalist in a sort of like prowling, predatory kind of way, as if maybe that's her conscience or as another part of her mind, you know, telling her you're not good enough, sort of thing. So, you know, it's someone who feels that they're unworthy of love, affection, or whatever. Maybe I could be entirely wrong, but going by the lyrics, it sounds like it could well be that. It goes, I try to find a solution to save myself from this darkness that surrounds me like a thick, dense fog, but I can't find shelter. So darkness that surrounds me like a thick, dense fog, that could be self-doubt, that could be depression, anxiety, you know, that sort of thing. It could be mental health illnesses, you know, it could just be like depression or just really thinking negatively of yourself. You know, I try to find a solution to save myself from this. But I can't find shelter, you know, I can't find somewhere safe, I can't find somewhere to escape from this. My head screams because you never feel enough, because for others you are not enough. So her head is screaming at her, saying you are not good enough. You'll never be good enough. You're not, you know, nobody else likes you. You're not good enough for anybody else, you know. Everybody else deserves so much better than you. The cold reaches every part of my body that I no longer feel mine, because I'm not loved like a beautiful flower, but I'm trampled on like a miserable leaf. You know, so they feel cold, hollow inside. You know, they can no longer feel like emotions. You know, they can no longer feel happiness. You know, they're just sort of an empty husk of who they used to be, because they don't feel loved, because nobody wants them. You know, they're just sort of getting trodden underfoot like an inconsequential, miserable leaf, as it were. And it goes again, my head screams, but you never feel enough, because for others you are not enough. Then we had that lovely little sort of bass solo, and then it came in with the Italian lyrics. And like I said, I've had to translate these. I don't know how accurate it's going to be. But it starts off very similar. It says, I try to find a solution to save me from this darkness that surrounds me like a fog, but I can't find shelter. The cold reaches every part of my body. I no longer feel mine, because I'm not loved, but trampled on like a miserable leaf. My head screams, why do you never feel enough? Why are you never enough for others? My heart whispers, you only have to account for yourself and throw away everything else. Like I said, that translation might be horrendously inaccurate, but that's the best I've got. So again, this is like the part when Susanna was walking around the main vocalist of the band. Like I said, it looked like she was prowling and stalking, kind of like it was part of her mind, sort of going, excuse me, you know. And the way that this is worded, again, this could just be a bad translation on my part. You know, my head screams, why do you never feel enough? Why are you never enough for others? You know, what is it about you that makes you feel this way? Why do you feel like such a failure? Why are you not good enough? And, you know, my heart whispers, you only have to account for yourself and throw away everything else. It's like, instead of worrying about everybody else, you know, just look after yourself. Do what you want to do. Do what makes you happy. You know, rather than having to worry about how everybody else sees you, rather than worrying about making everybody else happy, make yourself happy first. Be happy in yourself first, because that's the only way that you're going to get out of this funk, because you're never going to make everybody happy. There's always going to be somebody that's going to cause problems. There's always someone that's going to make you feel a bit naff, you know. So rather than worrying about what they're doing, rather than worrying about what they're saying, you know, do something for you. You know, account for yourself. You know, just make yourself happy first. Worry about yourself instead of everybody else. I could be way off base here, but that's what it sounds like to me. And again, like I said, I had to translate that second half myself, and you know, that's just what I got. So. Yeah, I mean, they've released a fair few tracks. They've been around since 2018, I think. I could be wrong. You know, they've got several other tracks on YouTube, so, you know, if you enjoyed this, you should go and check out some of that other music. And, you know, it's one of those things I've been meaning to, but I've never quite got round to it. But when they brought out this new track, I thought, you know, it's about time. I'll check it out. See what we're dealing with, and you know, like I said, I quite like it. It's not, like I said, it's not typically the style of music that I will listen to, but it's the sort of thing I will go to every now and then when I'm in the mood for it. And like I said, it reminds me a lot of like the old sort of 80s gothic sort of music that I quite enjoy. You know, things like The Cure and things like Sisters of Mercy and stuff like that. You know, it's got that sort of feel to it. Not exactly, obviously, but you know, it's got that sort of feel to it, and I quite like it. But I don't know what else I can say about that, so I will leave that as it is. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, maybe even a subscribe if you're not subscribed already, because that will help me immensely. But other than that, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.